Hey everyone, and welcome to the next edition of the Snapchat. Today I'm joined once again by none other than Cozy Snap. Cozy, what is the card that you've been playing the most this week?
The most? Ooh, I like it. Probably Iron Man, actually. I think I've been loving Iron Man, and I before the Shuri adjustments, that was like the card that I leaned on to be able to beat those lanes, beat Galactus. I kind of love his entire package of what the card offers, and it's Iron Man. So yeah, definitely. It's got to be him.
Iron Man is actually kind of coming back in the meta. Like, I'm seeing Iron Man and Patriot now. Like, there's a lot of Iron Man going around, and I love that it does counter Galactus, right? Because, like, it just doubles the power, and it's like even Null might not be able to deal with whatever you play on top of that Iron Man. I love that, Cozy. And you know what else I love? I loved what we talked about on your side of the channel. We just finished recording. What an absolute doozy. Why don't you bring us up to speed with what we talked about on your side of the channel?
Yes, we talked about April's patch, the giant one. You guys obviously know the winners and the losers. Which cards are rising, which ones are falling because of the patch and the balance changes. We also talked about just the next meta, what's coming up, the rising decks, and there's a lot of them. Sandman, obviously, that's the subject of the podcast. And then updated pool 4 and 5 tier list. We ranked all the cards. What should you be spending your tokens on with the new adjustment to the shop? Now's a good time to bring a new refresh list to you guys.
Yeah, we got a lot of exciting topics to talk about today on this side as well, including Shuri. Post-meta, is it still part of the meta? And I think you're going to have a very fascinating discussion because I think it still is. We're going to talk about bots in Marvel Snap and whether or not it's good for the game. And what's going to be the next Shuri? Because we're going to have to find something else to raise our torches and pitchforks at. And I think we have a few suggestions of what might just happen looking into the future. And before we go into our first subject, we have an amazing new card of the week. It is going to be a great discussion piece because it is Jeff the Shark. Okay, listen, Cozy, I gotta be honest with you. I am half drawn in by not only its amazing effect, but how cute is this card? Like, literally, I'm being dragged into purchasing this card because it's so damn cute. Day one, I bought the Ryan Gonzalez variant. It was in the shop. I couldn't believe it was on the rotation. I had to buy it. I tweeted it out. I was so proud of it. I know you're jealous. This card is so good, Cozy. What do you think?
Dude, I came up with my best YouTube title of all time. Is he a 2-cost MVP or just another fish in the sea? Like, I felt like that was...
That's a good title.
Was beautiful. Maybe not for clicking, but I just thought it was a good rhyming Dr. Seuss title. Dude, Jeff is what I like about Marvel Snap. I think he brings what Marvel Snap's about, and that's like the funness, the fun factor. And like, so many players got this card over other meta cards that they could have gotten simply because it's Jeff, because he's cute, because he is functional, and kind of does it all. Does he have a bite? He's cute, but does he have a bite? And I think yes, man. I gave him about a 3.5 stars out of 5 in his future outlook, man. Do you like Jeff?
Yeah, I'd go higher than that. I'd go like towards 4 maybe. Like, I think he's not like meta breaking or anything, but like he's definitely a good card. Like, I have no regrets spending the 6K, especially with the prevalence of Sandman that I think is going to be, well, let's just say maybe Sandman might need a little slapperoonie, but I think Jeff's a really cool card. And I like the idea. Like, at first I was like, do I really want a card in Marvel Snap that's like bending the rules, breaking the rules? Because it kind of made me nervous. I'm like, how many times do we want to do this, right? Like, how many times do we want to break the rules? But
you were against it. You hated it. You did not want the rule breaking. And I have the graphic that I had for my video where like, these are all the locations he cheats into. And it's like, man, it's great. It's so fun. Like, I actually get excited about these locations, which used to make me mad when I have Jeff. I'm like, oh yeah, there's Morag, there's miniaturized lab. I can mess around with it. And he is finding more use than I thought. I'm definitely not gonna give him 4 stars. There's still much better 2-drops out there, but I do think he has a lot of versatility. And dude, he fits into control. Like, of course I'm gonna love that. But that's what I like. The decks that he fits into also works with like what's going on with him as a whole. So like Sandman, he can break the rules if you're going up against the Sandman, but it's also probably pretty good to play him in a Sandman deck. Or, not Spider-Man, that's probably the other one, but Professor X, it's so great. You can cheat him into other X lanes, but then you can use him in your own. So love what he can do.
That's one of the reasons, like, I think he's fantastic because, like, he just does he adds this consistency. And, like, one of my favorite cards is Ebony Maw. We talked about this prior where like Ebony Maw is such a fantastic card and Jeff's like, hey buddy, you have that ongoing that everyone hates. Well, I don't mind, bud. Let's come and cuddle, right? Like, I just think that Jeff is the ultimate flexible card. Like, it has the ultimate flexibility. It can go anywhere. It can do anything. And in Marvel Snap, especially with the restriction of the locations, it's a good one, Cozy. It's a damn good one.
Yeah, we say it's a leveled up Nightcrawler. We don't say that lightly. We're not saying it's a leveled up Hawkeye. Nightcrawler's a good card, right? You have a
Oh, yeah.
really good card, and then you're leveling that up even better. I've been putting them together. You know how crazy it is to have all these moving pieces and having to keep up with that? Love it, and he does fit in a lot of archetypes. Excited for Jeff and his future in Marvel Snap.
With that being said, Cozy, let's get started with our topic number one, which is Shuri, the post-patch. Is she still meta? Now, Shuri's in a really interesting spot. For those that don't know, it's been a very unique change, and it's one that I think makes a lot of sense, right? The fact that it's now basically ensuring that you have to play into a specific location does have a huge impact on the viability of Shuri, but specifically, Cozy, the counterplay to Shuri. So what has been your experience thus far?
Yeah, it's early time and days and adjustment, but I think they did a good job. Mainly, they took care of some big issues. Cosmo, and you can't hide behind Cosmo. That was, you only can get so many cards in a game of Marvel Snap, and the fact that you could rely on armor and Cosmo, and it really helped you out. Now, armor's the only one that can protect that Shuri lane. And it hurt a lot of the combo pieces. You can't Shuri Doctor Doom anymore. Like, there's a lot of interactions you can't do. Mainly anything with Shuri and on reveal effects, which to me, it's so funny, right? When you think Shuri, yeah, Wakanda, right? You love it. Black Panther. They don't even work together. It's so funny that Black Panther, I feel like they were designed to work together, and they can't anymore because of the possibility of Cosmos shutting that down completely, right? And/or Black Panther wants to be in his own lane, and now he has to be with Shuri, so you can't Arnim Zola that. So those little interactions, and then mainly Shang-Chi. The fact that if you don't have priority, no big deal. You throw Shang-Chi in the lane that they have Shuri in, you know it's going to be a big card. It's most likely, 99% of the time, going to be higher than 9 power, and then you just destroy it, and it's no big deal.
When you see Shuri, you have options, you have counterplay. They've added that to Arrow, in fact. We're talking up Arrow, but Arrow didn't have counterplay in its prior iteration, and now it does. Leader has counterplay. Now Shuri has counterplay too, because that's what was missing. There was no counterplay. It was the Cosmo. It was the Shuri. They would protect the big thing with the Cosmo, and you're just sitting there like, what do I even do? What do I even do?
I love that priority Cosmo. It can be filthy with Shuri overall. So, and Shuri gives up priority a lot of the times. I think they did it perfectly. I think she's in a good spot. And then, Alex, we talked about it on my side a little bit, but don't you love that Vision and Captain Marvel now Vision was always good with Shuri, but I feel like, obviously, it wasn't Red Skull, so people were kind of leaving it by the wayside. Dude, a 14 bomb that you can move now? Love it.
Yeah, and I think this was kind of the original intention. I think the Red Skull crazy Taskmaster interaction, I felt like that was way too vertical. It was way too good. And the idea of using Vision, I think, makes a ton of sense. I think that it is the greatest interaction. I talked about, even Black Bolt, right, is a cool interaction. I think that the way they've changed Shuri, specifically with the counterplay available, it makes it feel much more fair, but it also provides additional deck building opportunities to use some of these cards that could benefit from Shuri. Like Black Bolt being a 16 is not insignificant, especially when you follow that up with something like a Stature, which dropped down to pool 4. So Vision, Cap Marvel, these are huge. The one thing that I kind of want to throw by you, Cozy, though, is I had this thought, and I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but what happens to Rescue now? It's kind of interesting because they're kind of filling not the same role, but you know what I mean? I don't know how to articulate this, but I feel like Shuri's kind of stepping on the toes of Rescue a little bit. I'm wondering what your thoughts are.
Yeah, no, I could see that. I think it's just a card that does something different. Professor X Rescue still works a lot. Heck, Zabu, and then you get Rescue out, and then you play Shuri on top of that. Might be one of the great interactions you can get done. And then you do Vision, right? Because then you would have a built-up lane, and you have your Vision, and you can get things going crazy. I get what you mean. I think Rescue is in a good stage anyway because of Shang-Chi being out and about right now. But, I think she just fits in a couple of other decks. But naturally, right, Jeff just came out, and he's kind of like a leveled up Nightcrawler. So I kind of feel like that is somewhat intents and purposes. But yeah, I get where you're coming from that, but I think they are going to work in different ways.
I like the fact that they didn't change the doubling, by the way.
Yeah.
I had heard a lot of people who were saying oh, max 10, add 5, and all this different stuff. And I was like, man, I like the idea of the doubling because I feel like it's not that it's iconic, but it's unique. We want that. Iron Man doubles, we have that type of interaction. And I felt like Shuri It just needed that minor tweak, and especially with that counterplay, I think that's what Marvel Snap really needed. We need the opportunity to be able to say, okay, I suspect Shuri's coming out. I know they just dropped this play. How can I counteract it? Having the agency, which didn't exist before, but the agency to counteract their play, I think changes the game completely. So I really like where it's at, and I'm happy they didn't even change the power.
Yeah, the predictability, I think, is also the biggest thing that happened. The fact that you can now predict it's going in that lane no matter what. Professor X becomes easier. You can do commitment. It's such a lazy, it's so lazy. I see people like, this changed nothing. I'm like, you've changed nothing about yourself if you think that Shuri is still where she was before. It opens up so many ways to interact against that card now. And I think the predictability just helps because you can double down on that lane. You can nope out of the lane. There's a lot of things you can do. That's where vision comes in if you want to have him in the deck. I think he does provide the next turn to be able to move him around. You don't know where he's going, but you're committing. You're committing the next turn to that. And so the predictability with the counterplay is that perfect blend that I think is what we talked about. We want double power to be... Big power will always be a thing in Snap, right? But it can't be the only thing and the top thing.
I agree 100%. And the thing about Shuri is I think it's still going to be a good deck. It's going to be still a good archetype that people can go to. And I think this is important. I don't know if this will be a popular take, but people had spent their tokens on Shuri. And I think it's okay to still give them a card that functions. We didn't want Leader. Leader, if people spent 6K or 3K tokens on Shuri, now it drops to pool 3. Everyone gets access to it. And then hey guys, guess what? It's garbage now. That is frustrating. They can't do that. That can't happen. It has to have some semblance of being a legitimate archetype still. Because it's important that you're able to play the card that you spent your tokens on and have it be an actual reasonable option. And I think they did manage to do that, but they also said if they need to do more, they'll do it.
Listen, I don't think Ben Brode's on his spiked castle, Darth Vader looking lava pit, and he's like, all right, when it drops down to pool 3, that's when we do it. That's when we pull the trigger. I'm sure, and call me naive, I think that it's a bummer on their end too. I don't think they're like, yeah, we did it. We lined it up perfectly, guys. I do understand comments of people upset about that. But the naive nature of saying never nerf a card because I bought it is terrible for the game. The game would die if you don't. The game would die faster if you keep things the same and nothing changes. And we were not seeing the game die. We were seeing it get stale, and that's not what you want, right? So I think it all lined up pretty well, and I agree, man. If they can, man, they've been killing it. Zabu, Surfer, and Shuri are just textbook how to nerf a card.
And what I really like too is that they're implementing the tools to prevent this from happening again. They're taking steps to ensure that if the meta goes the wrong way, if it goes south, or if a card like Shuri really starts to take hold, that they have answers for it. And I think that's super important because now you're seeing a future, as we said before, which is far brighter than the past, because if we have a card that takes over, they are going to be prepared to answer that. And I do think that ultimately that is how you keep the meta fresh. You keep things interesting, and once it gets solved, you're able to adjust those numbers, whether it be over the air or otherwise. They're more prepared now than they were prior.
Yes, and if you were one of those people that got Shuri and you're listening to this, just know Darkhawk got nerfed as well, right? And when he got nerfed, people were so pissed. I just got him. Can you believe? Guys, Darkhawk has been just destroying the meta for a while now, right? He's still well worth it. I think he's a great indication of where Shuri's going to be. It's going to be a good card. He's maybe not as good, but a great card that you can still have deck design around. So don't feel too bad. Yes, you're not going to get the easy dominance, and it's good, it's gone, but it's still going to be good.
That brings us to our next subject, Cozy, and I think that we bring up very often in Marvel Snap that fun and the fun factor is an incredibly important consideration. And I think that there's nothing more kind of polarizing in Snap right now than bots. Bots in Marvel Snap are something that, first of all, are probably not going away, but might need to. I'm not sure what to make of bots sometimes, but it's one of those things where I think we have to have a discussion as to the benefits of bots in Marvel Snap, but also the bad parts of what bots are doing negatively. And overall, are bots a necessary evil?
Oh, yeah. They're definitely... Let me start the conversation. They're not going anywhere. Bots have to be in Marvel Snap. Period, in a discussion. Why, Cozy? Why? It's the cubes. They've already talked about this. It's the cubes. They need to inject cubes into the ladder to give every player a chance to be able to climb. That has to exist. That's why they're going to be here. Now, up to what limit, right? I think people have talked about, cut it off at 90, cut it off at infinite. But because of that injecting cube, it has to exist. There's only a finite amount of cubes, right? And then that's not even talking about the runtime. So I see, or waiting for a game. I see people like, I don't want bots in the game. You can't. You have to have them. And they've already said they're going to have them. However, there's a lot of discussion around them that I think is super healthy to have. But I wanted to just start there. I'm sorry to pop the balloon so quickly. But I feel like it's necessary for the way that Snap's designed.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think that one of the key elements of Snap is like the opportunity to get a quick match, to have an enjoyable experience. And honestly, like I am at a point right now where I don't get many bots. I'm actually like, on the climb, like if I get a bot, I'm like, oh, thank God. Like I need a bot. I need an easy game here because like I'm trying to climb, man. I want to get to infinite. And, I'm literally at like 90 something right now and I'll get there. But like, it's like fighting player after player after player after player, especially when the matchmaking's working and you're getting players of comparable skill. Those are 50-50 games. You got to earn those cubes, damn it. And like sometimes the bots can be a bit of a reprieve where it's like, hey, we got a bot. Let's see what kind of dumb crap they're going to try and pull here. And then of course they go full clairvoyant on you and steal your 8 cubes. But that's when you put the game down for a while. But anyways, I do think that the bots have a very interesting role in Marvel Snap, not just from a standpoint of like getting those quick matches, but I think they help ease players into the game too. I think that before level 30, do you just exclusively play bots?
So before level 30, you exclusively play bots, which is super helpful. Nobody wants to. Can you imagine going in and getting slapped by Shuri Red Skull? 4 games in, you're like, F this game, dude. Like, I don't care how much I like Marvel. So they don't happen before 30. And what's cool too is there's like multiple bots, right? Like you have, they're kind of adjusted to your skill level and your collection. And it works with that. That way, again, you're not level 31 and all of a sudden you're playing a bot that's like throwing down like Patriot Ultron and you're like, what's happening? I haven't even seen these cards before. So they're getting better. The thing about bots, Alex, that I think is crazy, I don't know if you've like looked into anything with like AI and kind of where it's going. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Jay-Z songs are getting pumped out and it's not Jay-Z. I mean, it's insane, right? How it's getting smarter. Their goal is to design bots to be as human as possible, right? And I like that. I think it's important. I don't like playing bots. I love playing humans mainly because I'm recording a lot and I want to play human because I want to be able to have the natural like ladder experience. And I actually sometimes I just love playing against humans' minds, and bots don't have brains really, right? But anyway, it's cool to see that they're adjusting bots to be smarter, and it's going to be interesting where they're going to end up.
Sometimes it's a bit of a reprieve to play a bot because it's just like I get to turn off a little bit, just kind of go with it. But you're right, it's not a rewarding game experience, right? Like I want the cubes just like anybody wants the cubes, but realistically, it's not the same thing. When you play against a player, you're able to trick them. You're able to play those mind games, which I know you absolutely love. It's a completely different play pattern. And as you start to get higher in rank and as you get better, you get these clairvoyant bots that just outright cheat. And it can be extremely frustrating. And the retreating now too. It's like, they did the math and now they just walked and you feel totally scammed. It's like it's like sometimes you have everything to lose. And then they just do a stupid play where they drop everything on the one lane for no reason. Like they're so weird sometimes. And I think that if they were more consistent, maybe they would be less frustrating.
Yeah. And you know what though? The fact that they've stated that Conquest isn't going to have bots is it. It's what you're looking for, right? Like you have the ladder climb and you have the Conquest climb. If you don't want a bot, you'll go do Conquest in a month from now. And I think that's like the right balance, right? Like you're going to have to wait longer. It's going to have to happen. And I get guys, we're not out of touch here. I understand either the frustration, all frustrations that are there for bots. The biggest issue they have to figure out, Alex, no question, is that they're bringing in a meaningful leaderboard to Infinite. They're bringing one in. And you're going to have skill ratings. And it's going to go up in MMR as you win, right? But you can't make that number meaningless. And that number is going to matter a lot. I know a lot of casual players don't care, but competitively, that's what drives games a lot of the time. And so you can't go up in this skill ranking if you're beating bots, or else we're exactly where we were, right? And so they need to either eliminate bots in Infinite or have it to where the bots don't affect said skill rating, or you have to beat those players that are above you in MMR or whatever that might be.
Absolutely agree. Like it definitely does compromise the integrity of competitive play, especially if you're doing it straight up on the ladder. That's why it's a great point that it's not going to be in Conquest, because if Conquest is going to be a very specific thing, as they discuss having that like 3-win kind of play pattern, then you can't have bots, because like it just does not make for a positive play experience. It's not a good competitive experience. One thing I want to ask you, Cozy, and this is kind of like one of the inspirations of this topic today, was like I had this train of thought where I was like, so Second Dinner makes a concerted effort to try and mask the fact that someone you're playing is a bot. They try to give it a random name that might not be, like in beta, it was like Robert, Charlie, and they've gone away from that. The names are completely random, right? And I mean, that's a good thing, I guess, because you can't really tell. But at the same time, do you think it is better or worse that you can't tell if you're playing a bot? Because like, would you rather just know that it's a bot, or would you rather just not be quite sure?
I get it. I get both camps. It's better though. Yeah, you can't. You don't want to know if you're playing a bot or not. I think that would devalue a lot. There's certainly been games where you think you won. You just walked away a champion, and if you would always take that away, that'd be a bummer. At the same time, it'd be nice for climbing purposes because it'd be easy to exploit it. I think it's got to stay we don't know. Also,
this game is still relatively new. They can work on the bot AI to the point where it becomes less obvious. And they have been taking steps in that direction, you know, with the way that their cards are. Like, we often try to identify the types of splits they have to see if they're bots. Once those indications start to disappear, then there's a good chance that the difference between a player and a bot, that's going to minimize a little bit. Right. When that happens, then like, I guess maybe it's just a moot point. Maybe if they're good enough and they're able to emulate players enough, then maybe it doesn't really matter. But like, my concern is that bots clearly have a role in Marvel Snap. It's just, it feels like sometimes they're a little damaging to the laddering experience specifically.
Yeah, I think Conquest solves that answer. I think again, they have to be able to inject the cubes. It's a worse world without them than with them. And I don't know. They don't bother me all too much. I think if you have like a really bad string of games and you're playing like multiple bots, then it is a little bit annoying or whatever. But yeah, I do think they're important. I think they are an integral part of how they design the ladder to be.
On another episode, I think it'll be worth talking about how to identify a bot, because I think that's an important skill too, and it's constantly changing. And I just mentioned before, like, you can take a look at the the cards and the splits and stuff like that, but we'll have to have a good conversation about that in the future. In the meantime, I think we got to focus some energy on the next Shuri, which is our next topic, because listen, we know that us as card gamers, we like to get a little mad. We like to get a little spicy, and Shuri took the brunt of a lot of anger for some time, Cozy. And it was deserved. Cozy, it was deserved. Shuri needed some heat, and it got brought down. But I think that when one falls, another rises. And we're going to have a discussion here about what could potentially be on the future onset of the cards that are going to piss everyone off. And Cozy, I'll give you the floor here to get us started.
Yeah, the villain of Marvel Snap of the month. Not employee of the month. I want to go all the way back. And we don't have to go to beta, which you could, because there was a lot of cards in there that were the villain that, the community got together, which is more important in beta because you're fixing the game that isn't tuned up yet. But since the launch of Snap, there's been a villain, right? And not being an avid card gamer, yeah, I didn't know. Apparently, like, there is always going to be the torches for the next card. What I'll say is, if you go all the way back to December, let's start there. That was definitely the leader in the death kind of era, right? So you had leader being called for, and that magnified. And that headed into January. But in January, Alex, who did we get? Well, Silver Surfer found his time. So Silver Surfer was the new villain. They got rid of the leader, and then Zabu made his way, right? So if we look at these cards, I'm on the mob side in the sense of, with justice, these cards needed to be brought up, right? Like, those were all problematic cards, and they have been now adjusted for the better. If you now, like, look at leaders change, right? We are now full circle. Zabu, Surfer, leader. Thank God we came together as a community, passionate community, and said, hey, these cards need to be changed, right? And then we've joked about it. There's going to be the next card and the next card. So we had Leech, and then we had now Shuri. So would you say that's accurate? Is there any cards I'm forgetting in there that was like the most hated?
No, you're definitely right. Like that is a perfect kind of history lesson on the cards we've hated in Marvel Snap. I remember during beta, like it was Hela. Hela was absolutely pissing everyone off. And like come launch day, like no one's playing Hela. Like Hela ain't causing problems. And it was it kind of got to the point where it's like, you know what? I was actually kind of surprised that Leech got touched up because like Leech kind of fell off. Once the Thanos changes happened, Leech was kind of, I wasn't seeing much Leech. Like, were you seeing lots of Leech?
No, but I think like would he have become a problem again? Probably. And
of course,
what they did is really good. Leech is like Sandman in the sense of like when he gets popular, it just is not a fun snap, right? And I think they wanted to nip that in the bud, and I think they did. They did a good job. So it is interesting because there are two camps, right? As positive as I am, and as much as guys, I can't stand. And maybe I get a blunt of it because just people use my comment section to vent their anger. I don't love that we have the mob mentality of a new card all the time. But if you look at every single card that had the mob mentality, it's for the better that those cards did get adjusted. I don't think there's a card that did that I'm sad about. It was leader, but now we're good.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say this too. I think I've brought this up in the past, but like you can kind of like understand that like some of the hate that you see, like people like, I hate leader, I hate Leech. It's also a form of love because they're showing that they love the game enough to actually provide feedback and discuss it. Because if they didn't love Marvel Snap, they would just uninstall and they'd go away. But instead, they're like, no, I want to play more Marvel Snap. I just don't want to see leader in every friggin' game. I don't want to see Leech in every friggin' game. And now they're going to be like, now I'm seeing Sandman in every friggin' game. So it's like, I like the idea that people are impassioned enough that they want to give their opinions. And let's get started with the idea. Like, okay, Sandman's going to be like...
Dude, yeah. It's the torches...
It has to be Sandman, right?
The torches from the mob of Shuri didn't even get put out. They were putting them away. They're like, Shuri's been... We did it, guys. We did it. All right, let's... And then they're like, hey, we can save on fuel if we just use the same torches and get mad day one about the next... This was probably the worst I've seen it. For day one, we had people complaining, and it is... With such a huge patch that addressed a lot of the hated cards, Sandman is no question the next Shuri.
Oh, 100%. There's no question about it. And I love the analogy used. To me, like, I picture it as like, do you know the Olympic passing of the torch? Shuri, like, ran up, like, the street with the torch, right? And passed it to the Sandman. And Sandman's like... Thank you, Shuri.
Yep.
And just like, now it's like, just, what would Sandman do? Slither? I'm not even sure. Sandman goes like this and kind of like,
uses
goes with the torch.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, I got the torch now, fools, come at me. And Sandman, the nice thing about Sandman's like, nah, come at me. I'm going to destroy every game of Marvel Snap till I get nerfed to the ground.
Well, here's the cool thing, too, because we talked about this on my side of the channel for a couple things. First of all, we're Sandman and or our other villain, which is 100% Galactus. When those two are the top decks, it's not good. It's not good. No. We need them to be in the top decks, but not near the top or not the top, right? So there's this kind of balancing act. The great news about Sandman, though, is I do think an OTA, an over-the-air change, is going to fix him, opposed to an ability change, obviously. So you have that going for you. But it is funny, and we said this on my side of the channel, guys. The people that love those combo cards... Right? They hate Sandman. Of course, man, they can't flex to their friends. But then the people that don't like going up against those decks like them. It's like Pokemon. It's like water, fire, grass. You need that little triangle going on. And of course, the people that are going to complain are the people that are in their camp of like water type, screw grass type, whatever. I mean, there's always going to be that triangle. And I think it's important to have that so long as there's like 8 decks in that kind of loop.
There's cards that are like release valves. They release specific elements of Marvel Snap. And I think the problem with Sandman becomes that like, okay, it's a release for those turn 6 combos, but when it itself needs a release valve, maybe it's a little overtuned. But then again, like it wasn't a problem until like just recently. And like, I mean, Jeff the Shark answers it. Jeff the Shark does provide some sort of answer, but it's in pool 5 and it's 6K tokens and it's not available to everybody, right? So Sandman is gonna piss people off. I'm already ready for it.
It's so funny. It's like things happen with the evolution of Snap. I don't know when I made my thumbnail about Dr. Doom and Patriot, but that first introduced Sandman being with Doom in my eyes. I'm sure a billion times before that, but you just saw Dr. Doom and the Odin thing really come into light with Sandman maybe a couple months back, and it was a good deck. It was a top 5 deck in the last meta probably. We could see that from the rank stats alone. But now you combine the people knowing about Doctor Doom and Odin. I think if you got rid of that one interaction, the power of, and they're not going to, they're going to adjust Sandman, but the Odin on reveal craziness is what is making him so crazy to go against.
Sandman's one of those cards, like as a 5/5, it puts up enough power to kind of hold its own lane a little bit. Like it's not power deficient, right? It's not like Wave 5 where you're putting 3 or Leech 5 where you're putting 3 and you're trying to follow it up in another way on turn 6. Sandman comes down. That extra 2 power is not insignificant, right? It's also an ongoing. So theoretically, there could be a potential combo with Spectrum, but it's not happening because you're seeing the ramp into the Sandman, into the Doom, into the Odin. It's just too clean.
The deck that it attacks is the opposite of its playstyle, right? Like with Sandman, it is designed to get power out early, spread it out, get yourself grounded before you play him. And the decks he attacks are those combo decks that are looking to really, they don't have to do much at all. We've seen decks that turn 5, turn 6, that's all they need. Turn 6 is all they need sometimes. You throw a Zabu in there and Sarah, and then you're done, right? So it's interesting that the play styles are so vastly different, but I think that's what's important about it. But yeah, man, he needs to go down. What do you think, a 5/3?
I mean, he was a 4/2 prior, and I think that made things really awkward. He was an awful card, impossible to play. I think they would start it as a 5/4, but like, is it even the power here? Because it's like legitimately one of the most impactful effects of the game. Is it really the power?
It's kind of Electro in a lot of ways. It's a lot. I don't know. Electro. If you look at Galactus and you look at Electro Ramp, I mean, you're talking to a guy that got you into Electro. I remember the early days of the Snapchat. The ramp, I am a giant ramp fan. Is Electro the deal? I don't know. I don't know. Sandman has to exist, so yeah, I don't know if it's the power, if it's the interactions. He'll be a tricky one, but I think you can mess with his power to start, and that should be a decent spot.
I agree. Starting with the power is where it's going to be, but this card is going to piss people off, unfortunately, and it's we're only just getting started. We're only a few days in, and already, as you said, there was vitriol that first day or two. Like, people were pissed with Sandman, but I also think you're seeing a lot more Sandman because people were also experimenting with Jeff the Shark, and like they were trying to test that interaction as well. You always see that, like, that first initial launch wave of something that's kind of people are excited about, season pass card or whatever. People will really force interactions with specific cards. I bet you by next week it'll calm down a bit, but it's entirely possible that I'm wrong.
No, what you're saying is true. He was the easy pivot deck because he was already doing so well, and now he answers like what would have rose with all this, which is like the Hitmonkey stuff and the Sarah dumps. So I think it was the easiest option to go to. But I do think again, ultimately, there's gonna have to be something looked at. It's kind of interesting. Like, I love Electro, but like he kind of works like Mr. Negative. That he's giving you this cheat, right? He's giving you this way to play massive cards. The 2 power on Electro, I think, is going to change. Now, the more I think about it, why does Electro need to have power? I don't know. I feel like because of what he unlocks. And I'm not calling, I don't need the comments down below being mad about this. It's more just like bringing up the conversation, right? Like, is it him? Does he need to go down, maybe not to a -1 like Mr. Negative, but like you take the hit. On turn 3, you take the hit because you're playing Electro, but then, maybe you get to have these crazy interactions after that.
I see where you're going with it, but at the same time, like, the hit is the ongoing ability. Like, we're talking about how Sandman is so rough. Like, this is your own Sandman. You've chosen this life, but that's kind of the difference. You've built your deck to take advantage of it, right? It is a considerable disadvantage. Like, it's huge, the disadvantage.
It is, so, but like, it's not when you have the deck. Like, it is,
right.
But, like, no, it's not. There's no deck that's built around Electro that does not have the purpose of growing to a 5-cost card the next. And I'm not saying Electro should be nerfed. I'm just bringing up the conversation. Right? Like, I think there's not... Yeah, I don't know.
You're not playing Electro Zoo? What's wrong with you? But I totally get what you're saying, though, right? Like, you mitigate the disadvantage with the design of the deck, which makes perfect sense. It's exactly why you would play a card like... If you're playing Electro and you're playing Zoo, then, like, dude, like... Put away the brewski. Like, you gotta have a break, go for a walk. But like, yeah, like obviously Electro, you compensate for that with the deck design. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if it went down to a 3/1. But like, I don't know if Electro's the problem. It might just be Sandman because like,
agreed.
I don't know.
Agreed.
It's a very interesting conversation. But Electro does activate Galactus, which is probably the second most hated card, which is probably going to get people riled up. And I mean, Galactus is always on the radar. I try to avoid talking about Galactus too much in my meta deck reports because like people are actually so pissed. They're like, Alex, stop telling people how to play Galactus. Stop showing people viable Galactus decks. I don't want to see Galactus anymore. And it's like, I get it. It's probably the most polarizing card in Marvel Snap right now. Like with Sandman, Galactus infuriates people.
You know what's interesting though is like as we go to next month, there's the Living Tribunal that adds the power of one location. This is what it's data mined to be, and it spreads that across all three. So that's where like you kind of need the Galactus, right? If this guy's just gonna Iron Man onslaught it out, it's like, all right, well those cards are gonna die, right? Like I'm gonna play Galactus turn 6, maybe, right? So he probably serves decent purposes as well. It's so funny because in one hand he's so perfect of a big bad. He's so unique. I love it, but he's just not ultimately a card that needs to be the top deck in the game. It just doesn't. It doesn't need to be.
He can't be the top deck of the game. It'll never be the top deck of the game. It'll get smacked down so fast, it'll never reach there. And it came up during our tier list discussion, right? It's the reason why you can confidently buy Thanos, but you wouldn't confidently buy Galactus. Galactus provides a really unique playstyle. It's a bit of a trolly playstyle. Like if you like upsetting people and smashing the Miss Marvel, then yeah, get her done. But like Galactus will never be an S tier deck.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like you're seeing a lot of Galactus. I think that's what's annoying is you commit so much time to play. It's not really that much, but you commit a lot of time to playing the match, right? And then you see Galactus. I'll be honest, dude. I can't confidently tell you the last time I lost 8 cubes to Galactus. I unless it was for the content or whatever, because it's pretty default. They have Null. They have Shang-Chi. If you go in with that knowledge and you don't have priority, then it's over. If they do the Spider-Man, get the hell out of there. Like, most you're probably going to lose is 2 cubes unless you snapped early.
I agree. Even if you're, like, excessively inebriated, you can probably predict that Spider-Man play on turn 5. Like, you know it's coming, right? Like, Spider-Man turn 5, Null turn 6. Like, the Galactus players, and by the way, every Galactus player is, like, inkified gold Galactus. Like, they love their Galactus, right? Like, how many inked Galactuses do you see? Like, these guys play Galactus nonstop. And they're getting better. They're getting craftier. But, like, when I see Wolverine wave, I'm like, all right, bro. Like, all right, bro. Like, what? Like, thanks for coming out. Here's your cube.
It is true.
But
they definitely flex that they play a lot of them. And honestly, if I wasn't a content creator, like, I don't blame you, man. Hop in. You paid a lot for the card, token-wise, and, you've learned the play style, and you just, go kick some butt. It is interesting to see, like, with Professor X getting better, too, like, with Jeff and, like, Leader and Control decks, like, is that just the answer? You telegraph it, and you're like, hey, play your Galactus, man. Professor X, it's over. Game over. Game done.
Yeah.
Right? Game, set, match. So I think, again, things have to flesh out. Things have to we have to let the meta solve itself. I don't think flesh out. Is that the word? Flesh out, whatever. We have to let the meta kind of solve itself before we get the torches that we just put down, guys.
I agree 100%. And I think that Galactus ultimately will be a card that, like, they'll keep a close eye on. It'll never quite get to the point where it's, like, completely destructive, but they'll keep their eye on it. And one card that I think that they did keep their eye on, and they did nerf, and I originally was like, oh, this nerf, I'm actually kind of surprised. I'm not surprised, but, like, did it kill the card? It obviously did, and it's Darkhawk. I'm going to put Darkhawk out there. Now, this might be a hot take, but I think that Darkhawk might end up picking up some flack here, because it is just such a good card. It is so good. It might be the best Series 5 card that I've ever purchased. I purchased it at Series 5, mostly because you called it, man. You called it. You said this card was going to slap. And I was like, Cozy never misses. I bought the card, and it has served me absolutely beautifully. This card might be the ire of a lot of people, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I personally am going to be on the camp of I think Darkhawk is good where he's at, but because it's not him that's winning the decks, it's that he is slotting with things like Devil Dinosaur, right? It's like the combinations of just like really, really good cards. Because here's the thing too, like if you get Korg and Rock Slide and you don't get Darkhawk, like, and you just have a Mystique, like bummer. If you get Darkhawk but you don't get Rock Slide or you don't have a way to get out more of these things, big bummer, right? There's ways that you can Shang-Chi him if you try to build him up too early. You can also Rogue and Enchantress him. You can Cosmo the Korg. I think there's a lot to handle him. But that doesn't take away from him. Like, to me, he feels like Devil Dinosaur. He's the exact same. He's a great card, man.
Yeah, he's a good card. And you're right. I think the package really activates him. And, like, from my experience, when I'm playing Darkhawk, I have to double check that he's in my deck because I don't pull him. And then when my opponent plays Darkhawk, they go Korg, Zabu, Rock Slide, turn 1, 2, and 3, and snap in my face every time. And I'm just sitting there drawing rock after rock after rock, taking emotional damage. And then I think, I'm going to take it to Twitter. I'm going to Twitter. And I think that I'm not the only one that feels this way. But it did get nerfed. It used to be a 4-1. Now it's a 4-0, and it's still good. But, like, it can't be a 4-1. Like, what do you do to this card? Like, I think it has to stay the way it is. And I don't even know if the package can get you. What, you're going to nerf Rock Slide now? A card that didn't see a single shred of play until Darkhawk even came out? Like, what do you do?
I think you just can't release too many cards like Korg and Rock Slide. Like, you can't add too many add to the deck cards. That's what you got to be a little bit careful about. But I think he's fine where he's at. I think it'd be the same outcry. For whatever reason, there's not the outcry for Devil Dinosaur, and that card has been cracked for so long now, and I don't want it to be nerfed. Hell no, man. I love my Devil.
It's because Devil Dinosaur's a pool 1 card. That's why. Because people have it. People can use it. People feel like that is their go-to. This is my security. You want big vertical lanes? Check out Devil Dinosaur, fool. That's what people want. That's what people get excited about. When Darkhawk's still pay to win for the most part right now. Like, it's still up there. Yeah, it's 3K. You're like, hey, come on, Alex. It's 3K. Relax, bud. Relax. But it's still 3K tokens, and it just recently came down. Well, no, not recently either. All right, I'm wrong. It's not as pay to win as I'm making it sound, but it was pay to win, Cozy. You can't convince me otherwise.
Nah, what? I mean, yeah, for sure. I've never used the word pay to win in Marvel Snap. I think it's stupid. There's so many decks out there. However, dude, no, December. No. If someone got this in December, like, congratulations. Like, you had a great 4 months of Marvel Snap, right? Like, you got to take advantage of, like, the Zabu days. You got to take advantage of any day. I think, people will convince themselves that they could be playing better if they had X card. Take, for example, when Hitmonkey came out. If you didn't have Hitmonkey in X deck, you were losing. When I did a Pool 3 only Sarah, old school Sarah Miracle deck, 80% win rate. It did fine. Could it have been better with Darkhawk? Maybe, but then you give up some other pieces that you need in that deck. Sarah Dark Control is a really good deck, right? Now, Rocks and Hawks is another story. You can't run the deck. You cannot run how the deck is built, and it's a way to get Mystique. This is also the other factor, right? It's not just Darkhawk. Mystique is an insane card, and you get to copy that, and you get to manipulate that with another insane card that is Zabu. So it's like the correlation of a lot of these cards.
I agree 100%. Like, this card just works so well in so many different packages. And I got one more card for you that I want to throw out there. And I think this one's been on the cusp of being like the most hated card in Marvel Snap. And it's one of the most played Marvel Snap cards. And it, my friend, is Shang-Chi. Now, I know Shang-Chi takes a lot of ire. People go after Shang-Chi like crazy. And but it is like the definition of release valve. It is the definition of card that has to be in the game, or else like the game feels so weird. Like, I'll tell you something, Cozy. I actually experimented in a tournament where I banned Shang-Chi. And I was like, bro, like, seriously, you banned Shang-Chi? Now this meta is wild. And like, if Shang-Chi didn't exist, Marvel Snap becomes a very different, crazy game. This card has to exist, but I think it pisses people off. I think it takes people by surprise. And I'm just curious of your thoughts. I think it's a card that really does, it polarizes people.
Yeah, I can sum it up really easy. Shang-Chi became the most popular when Shuri dominated for so long. It was your only answer to it. The only answer. Give it a month and a half. Let's see where it's at. Let's see where it's at now that Shuri's exiting the meta. Because I think ultimately it's going to be that Killmonger thing, right? Where like when Killmonger's hot, your zoo is done. And when he's not, it's not, right? He has to be there to keep the greedy players in check. And when I say greedy, I love greedy decks, man. They're so fun. I love trying to pull off the Wong crazy combos. But he's there for the power greedy. And he just is probably not going to be in as many decks as Shuri dies down. He's always going to be a good card. I love Shang-Chi, dude. I think he's perfect what he does. I think I want to revisit this in like a month and see where he is after, now that Shuri, the most dominating card that we've ever seen in Snap, is now gone.
You actually bring up a good point. I've had that sharp thought in the past where like, is the actual problem with Shang-Chi Killmonger? Because like the way you would just deal with Shang-Chi is like Zoo. You play Zoo, Shang-Chi's useless. They can't do anything. But Killmonger being so prevalent, so good as a 3/3, like we talk about the value Killmonger creates. It single-handedly holds that entire archetype by the schnuts. Like, you can't do anything because of Killmonger. If you're playing Zoo and they drop Killmonger, it's just over. Right?
Exactly. And that's why like we want Human Torch to be changed, but if once the move cards come out, Human Torch is going to be super easy, and he's greedy. It's a good greedy. You want to build these high power cards. Let's go, right? But hey, you run the risk of being Shang-Chi'd or Killmongered, right? And that's why Zoo doesn't exist to the fullest extent because of that card, right? So I think it just keeps all these things in check.
It does, but Killmonger feels like a catch-all. It feels like there's no disadvantage to playing Killmonger. There's never a place where Killmonger like can serve you wrong. Like if Shang-Chi punched every 9 costs across their entire board state, like that would right? It's kind of what Killmonger does to 1 cost. And so like I just think it's a little disproportionate. I think that Shang-Chi is extremely valuable for like releasing those high power, very strong single lanes. But like Killmonger completely dismantles the board state of Zoo.
What if Shang-Chi was so this is interesting, right? The biggest con of Killmonger is that he kills your own 1 cost. That's what you're giving up, Alex, dude. 1 cost is a big curve play, man, and you're giving that up, right? Like you're not getting the Iceman or whatever. And maybe you are, but you kill him ultimately. It's not going to happen, and I don't want this to happen. I just think it's a fun what if Marvel series, Marvel Snap Edition. If Shang-Chi destroyed all 9 or more power cards on that location. So he was a Killmonger, right? In the sense of if you played this to get rid of the Red Skull, but you also had your own Infinite, right? It's like, oh my God, I can't play Shang-Chi there, right? And then the player then can be like, he has a high power card too. He's probably not going to Shang-Chi that location. Or Monster Island. It kills both of them, right? I don't know. I don't think so, but kind of an interesting idea because then he does have that con per se.
That would be the ultimate April Fool's play. Like imagine on April Fool's they didn't announce it and just all they did was just change the line of code over the air. It's like here, and then you drop Shang-Chi and it just punches your own Infinite into oblivion and you're like, what just happened?
The dragons,
yeah, that the talk about people taking it to Twitter, eh? Oh my God! But that would be the ultimate April Fool's play.
Yeah, without question, man.
And just like Sandman coming back into the meta, into the ire of everyone, we're going to be back on Monday this time, not on Thursday. We're actually be changing the date of the Snapchat. We're going to be releasing it on Mondays moving forward. That gives us the opportunity to take in that sweet over-the-air updates on Thursday, provide us the opportunity to play over the weekend, and hit you with the feedback on Monday, fully informed and ready to discuss. So we're going to be doing a little bit of a schedule switch. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Smash the like button to support the series. Sub to Cozy Snap if you aren't already. How are you not sub to Cozy Snap? No, what am I talking about? Of course you're sub to Cozy Snap. Sub to me, damn it. But also, guys, you're going to watch the video in the middle here because it's Cozy section where we're talking about the winners and losers. We're talking about the predicting the meta. We're also talking about the pool 4 and 5 tier list. Cozy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, man. Always fun. Love it, bud.
We'll see you guys in the next Marvel Snap episode.